Hey, it's Luke Miller here from potentialforchange.com. Big massive thank you for coming along to watch this video. This is another episode of Q&A with Potential for Change, and I'm going to be answering a question from Prachi. And the question was, what if you feel a certain spiritual connection with a loved one, and you feel like you've invested a lot of time into that person, and they've started to treat you like it doesn't matter and it's all for nothing. How do you let go and move on? And should you let go and move on? Well, I think it's important to realise the nature. And this is my perspective. So I'm going to share my perspective on what I think about relationships as a whole, not just loving relationships, but relationships in general. I believe we come from another place. We come from a place, and Earth is a place of learning. So we come to Earth to learn. It's, if you think of the multiple dimensions and the universe as like a university, kind of gives you a clue. Then you think of Earth as a class specifically, and what's strong in Earth is decision making is one thing, and also emotions. It's like when we're in certain states, we don't necessarily have to make decisions and feel emotions so much. If you have like certain out of body experiences and all this kind of stuff, it's less prevalent. Like it being human is a very emotional, and have to constantly kind of make decisions, right? So my understanding is we come here to learn, and we have a purpose here specifically on Earth to fulfill. And then if you think of all of our relationships, not just relationships but situations and stuff, but basically people that show up, they are mirrors for different parts of our psyche that we need to kind of unlock to fully realise our potential for being here. So everyone works as a mirror in a different way, as a catalyst for this awakening. Sometimes we learn because we have free will, so we can have these mirrors, these real kind of obvious things that we need to do, and not do them because we are creatures of free will. But they will continue to repeat until we learn. So if you think of that in a sense of relationships, our parents are here to teach us certain things. Our children, if we have children, are here to teach us certain things. Our siblings, our friends, our colleagues, the people who really annoy us and stuff. Like the people on TV, the bad guys, the good guys. Everything are here to kind of teach us different ways of being, and that often the biggest teachers, I'd say parents and partners are probably, well, parents, children and partners, are gonna, like the people who are close to you. But then really it is partners in a very strong sense. Parents are more for childhood, and partners are when we grow up, because they're, if things go well with the relationship, they're going to be the people who we spend the most time with. Generally speaking, they're going to be the people who we see every day, we wake up with, we talk with all the time, we kind of like sit down and reflect with. So they become our biggest teachers. So sometimes we, there's a thing at the moment, it's going around in, the spiritual community, and people labelling things as toxic, and while there are, you can find yourself in toxic situations and with relationships that bring out your toxicity, there are two things to this. One, if you think someone else is toxic and they're in your life, then you are displaying toxicity by allowing them to treat you badly, by not having the unconditional love for yourself. And if you are acting toxically, then it's unresolved things that you need to deal with. And sometimes we can get into a relationship and it brings up these feelings. It might bring up this jealousy, or anger or something. It might be something that we've felt that we've dealt with, and it can be so easy to run from that because it's like, this person's triggering me, this person's making me feel a specific way, so this must be wrong. But the fact that someone's there as a catalyst for you to be able to feel that can be, if you change your perspective on it, can be looked at as a good thing, because then you have the capacity to feel this way, you have the capacity to be this specific way. And then when these things arise, it's about learning how to cope with them and how to not, so if you feel jealousy, for example, not snapping and being like, you're doing this, you're cheating, you're doing, really kind of going off. It's like, okay, how is this making me feel? Is it rational? And you kind of learn coping mechanisms to deal with the problem. So sometimes having a trigger for specific emotions may feel like a bad thing, but it's actually a positive thing if you can look at it in a conscious way. So the thing with relationships is sometimes people, I'd say there's different types of relationships. There's like these kind of, I'm talking about this in a soul kind of purpose way. Like obviously some people have like crappy relationships, like strings of crappy relationships from which they are not learning a huge deal or not taking the messages and all that kind of stuff. But talking about it from like a kind of soul perspective, I think there's different types of relationships. We have like soulmate relationships, and a soulmate is someone who can be a life partner for life, but it's going to be it can often be someone who's there for a specific time of your life, and it's someone who awakens a specific part of your psyche that needs to be awakened, and often once we learn the lesson from this specific person, the relationship can end, Then we have twin flames, which are a lot more intense. They're usually mirrors of each other, and can be very, very difficult, very, very hard, and very, very intense. Often feel toxic, often feel like you should run away, but it's kind of like you have the overriding thing in a twin flame relationship is you want the same things. It may be expressed in a different way, but you want the same thing, and it's like that person is this person that you could spend your entire life with because you're working towards the same goal, So it's someone with a very similar life purpose. Doesn't mean that they're going to have the same path, but the life purpose is the same. And again, these can be come and go. Like you can have this relationship for life, or you can have it for a little while. But if you just have it for a little while, it's likely that you're going to be with this person again in a later life. I'm just sharing from my perspective because I believe in constant reincarnations. But the twin flame relationship is someone who you're going to spend time with until you get it together, kind of thing. So yeah, to go back to how do you let go and move on? I guess there's two ways to do so, and it's kind of the same thing. Firstly is unconditional self-love, like you have to love yourself enough to realise that you don't actually need someone to fill your cup, and you can practice that by literally loving yourself, like because everything's like habit, and you have to learn habit. So a bit like gratitude list, for example, you could do a self-love list, like I love myself because, I love myself because, and, write 3 or 4 things a day, and have this unconditional self-love, and that can really help you to feel fulfilled, and then when you feel fulfilled, it's a good time to have a relationship, and it doesn't always work that way, but, that's kind of the thing behind it. And the other one is unconditional love of the other person. If you're with someone and you feel like, and they want to leave, and you don't want them to leave because it's going to hurt you, but you feel like maybe they'd be better off, if they did leave, then that unconditional love is to allow them to be themselves and to be where they are as they stand, And coming on to should you let go, it's sometimes we have, I think the only way is to let go, the only way to make a relationship work is to let go, and if you can surrender to and accept the person where they stand, and ask that you be accepted where you stand, you know, as you are, and love each other unconditionally and fully surrender and fully let go, you know, then if they leave and don't come back, then it's probably for the best. And if they do come back, then it's probably for the best as well, you know. So it's kind of like sometimes we have to step into this surrender, and we really do have to let go, you know. So, but yeah, that's it for this video. I hope it's been useful for you, and I hope it can help you to gain a more of an understanding about your relationship and everything. Much peace and love. If you want to follow my videos, please subscribe to this. I'm going to be doing these quite a lot, so you know, hit the subscribe button. If you're on a desktop, there'll be a little bell next to the name. If you click that, then you'll be notified every time you get a video. You know, if you hit, if you're doing it on an iPod, iPhone or something like that, there'll be a little thing at the bottom saying, do you want to receive emails once you subscribe? There's a little bit at the bottom that you have to click, and then you get emails every time I shoot a video, which would be really, really good if you could do that. So much peace and love to you. I hope you're having a beautiful day, whatever you do, and I'll speak to you all very, very soon. Much love.